Greetings to the parishioners of St. Francis de Sales Parish in Morgantown. It was recommended that I do a video outlining some of the differences we can expect when returning to our parish this weekend. Initially, I was apprehensive, thinking to myself, enough has been stated. We're all at a saturating point regarding best practices in most every facet of our lives since the onslaught of the COVID-19 pandemic. By now, most of us have taken an opportunity to familiarize ourselves with our diocesan guidelines and directives communicated in writing and in video form, steering the reopening process around the state of West Virginia. I am grateful for the pastoral care our bishop has demonstrated for all of us throughout the past 2 months. My goal here is to personalize or customize the diocesan plan to fit us at St. Francis de Sales Parish. Most importantly, I would like to convey a heartfelt welcome for all our parishioners who are ready to begin again in gathering in our church for sacred purpose. I shared in my last communication that the church provides for those who are not yet ready to start their engines in returning to daily activities at this time. And this cross-section of parishioners might include those who are advanced in years, or those who are experiencing a weakened condition due to current sickness or recent recuperation, or lack of strength, and those who are not yet ready to transition out of a stay-at-home measure imposed 2 months ago. Our bishop has been very clear in reminding us we are not pressured in returning at this time. A good measure in this regard might be our readiness when faced with similar daily details of life, such as shopping or other tasks that put us out and about. On the other hand, the church demonstrates care for those who are ready to return, thus our reopening process. It's a personal decision for every adult, and I want to encourage all to weigh the following information in better determining your own preparedness. A personal decision equals personal responsibility. I believe I have been clear in stating things will be different for the time being, but I don't want it to be an intimidating experience for anyone who crosses our threshold. There's enough fear and intimidation out there, but we should do our part here to make the personal and responsible decision of either staying home until we feel ready to come back, or returning here now for the sake of worship. In either case, ours should be a free and careful decision, hence the reason for this video. Observing best practices and recommended procedures, we are doing our best to provide a safe, healthy, and sanitary environment that should not promote the spread of coronavirus contagion. The guidelines indicate to all of us ways to be careful, mindful of good hygiene practices, and personal responsibility for our own good, and just as importantly, for the care of others around us and even the greater community off our property. The same experience is currently being practiced in the store, or restaurants, workplaces, and some leisure venues that dictate close contact with others. I want you to know these are temporary directives. A good point to remember, the church is responding to the greater scenario. We are not making the rules that were put in place for society over the last couple of months. Ours is not a promotional endorsement of the right or left. It's simply a presentation of gospel-minded principles to be carefully considered in the face of unprecedented frustration anxiety, and so much confusion. The Church wants to provide for all her members. As your pastor, I think it may be more conducive for our spiritual and physical well-being if we would focus on the personal decision we should be making now. Let's not spend time and energy pondering what others are doing. That's their task. Instead of challenging, shaming, or degrading others, let's pray for them and their personal decisions to be made at this time. We have to be about our own spiritual, emotional, and physical welfare, and we have to be solicitous for all others regarding the same matters. This is what love others is all about. We are not to be selfish or judgmental when it comes to the minds and hearts of others. Therefore, for those who are making a personal and responsible decision to return to active and full participation in the Eucharist with us, upon arrival, facial coverings or masks are to be worn for the duration of our one Guthrie Lane experience until further notice, with the exception of the act of receiving Holy Communion itself. We will have a limited supply of disposable masks on hand, but you are encouraged to have your own. Upon entering the building, our gathering space, in spite of its name, should be a place of transitioning from outside to inside. So our focus should be getting into the worship space itself. Pay close attention to the big screens for pertinent information, and be mindful of touching shared fixtures and furnishings. All touchable or communicable venues have been removed, such as information sheets, children's books in the living room area, and complimentary items for the taking. You will note, too, the absence of the kneelers located at the Holy Family and Blessed Mother shrines. Candles may still be lit, and I would ask that the offering envelope be carried to the worship space and then dropped in the offering baskets located at the various entries. Our hospitality ministers will gladly provide assistance if you so desire. Offertory baskets will be clearly indicated near all entryways of the worship space. You may drop in your weekly envelope or loose offering before going to your seat or after Mass when exiting. You are kindly asked not to congregate before or after Mass. Seating is open with dedicated safe distancing pews left vacant. The longer pews would be ideal for larger household units because of the required 6 feet between your household membership and another parishioner's. Worship aids will be available at the entries, but you are welcome to view the worship aid on your cell phones from the parish website. At the end of Mass, you are kindly asked to carry your paper worship aid out of the church and take it home, or deposit it in the red bins in the gathering space. They are not to be reused, so please don't leave them on the wall or in the pew. Please take them home, along with any other personal item you may have brought with you. Restroom breaks are permitted, of course. Parents, please accompany your children to the restroom areas and see to it that the faucets are wiped off, as restrooms are used by many people during the course of a single Mass time. The entire area of the church and restrooms will be sanitized between all Masses. Restroom doors will be propped open and lights left on for your convenience. During the Mass, you will notice there is no shared usage of microphones. One reader will be assigned for both readings, the responsorial psalm and universal prayer, formerly called Prayer of the Faithful or petitions. The reader will have a designated pew to allow a more efficient access to the ambo area. Even the readings themselves will be placed in a binder and are not shared with the reader of the other weekend masses. Readers, the binder is found on the back table under the holy oil ambry, and you should carefully review the readings and the universal prayer and then place the binder on the ambo before Mass begins. There will be no procession with the gospel book. The reader should lower his or her mask at the ambo, proclaim the readings, or read the universal prayer, and then place the mask again over face and nose before exiting the ambo area. The cantor, no choir at this time, per diocesan directives, will remain at the cantor's stand behind me when leading us in song. The priest, that would be me, will proclaim the gospel and deliver the homily from the presider's chair area. And that's where I'm standing now. And as well, I will be at the altar for the second part of the Eucharistic liturgy. You will note the elements placed on the altar for consecration will be securely covered, other than the sacrificial host that I must touch and elevate. All three microphone positions, that of the priest, the cantor, and the reader, are well beyond the mandatory 6 feet distance, so masks do not have to be worn by reader or the priest when remaining at a safe distance from the congregation. The cantor, however, is encouraged to wear a mask even while singing because of greater potential for respiratory particles being projected into the air when singing. There will be no offertory procession, no basket passing, no altar servers, and no sign of peace. The distribution of communion should be orderly and facilitated by our hospitality ministers. At least temporarily, the bishop asks that only the priest, or if a deacon is on assignment, a deacon too, may distribute. Distribution of Holy Communion will be time-consuming, but I would encourage all to spend this sacred time communing with the Lord. After all, for 2 months we have been restricted by precautionary measures and best practices imposed. I plan to demonstrate before all weekend masses the act of moving to the central aisles of the church for distribution and the act of receiving communion with safety measures indicated by floor markings. A reminder, the mask should be removed for your personal reception of Holy Communion, and then it should be put back in place after receiving Holy Communion and before you return to your pew. Communion in the hand or on the tongue is your choice, as always, but care should be given by the one distributing and the one receiving not to touch flesh. No gloves should be worn for the reception of Holy Communion. The weight of medical opinion is for the in-the-hand method at this time of COVID-19 concerns. If one so chooses to receive communion on the tongue, a conscious act with mouth open wide is a must. Following the reception of Holy Communion on the tongue, the priest will have to sanitize his hands before the next person approaches the distribution area, the table in the middle of our church. The table assures distance and is a sanitizing and ritual ablution station for us. After the general reception of Holy Communion takes place, I will make my way around the church to those who cannot come forward, just like usual. Hospitality ministers are kindly asked to indicate to me those who wish to receive Holy Communion at their places. Holy Communion may be brought to your own homes for an elderly or sick person unable to come to church at this time. However, general communion calls to the homebound or hospitalized are not yet permitted and still reserved for circumstances in danger of death. So this means communion may be transported only to those with whom you are already commingling, not neighbors, friends, not even kissing cousins or other relatives with whom you have not regularly and physically interacted in the time of self-isolation. Holy Communion must be transported in a pyx, not a plastic baggie, not an envelope, and not a hanky, and then received by the person, which means given by the one transporting the Eucharist. Holy Communion isn't a vitamin, and it shouldn't be self-taken. The pyx you present should be opened and placed on the table as you approach to receive communion yourself. Indicate how many hosts are requested, and then close the pyx after the sacred host is placed in it, and then prepare yourself to receive Holy Communion. Then pick up the pyx and return to your place. Again, Holy Communion should be taken immediately following Mass to the homebound in your family or household. It should not be left in your car, pocket, or purse until the next convenient time you may or may not see that person. Communion, again, only for those in your home with whom you are already commingling. Dismissal will be orderly and performed with the assistance of hospitality ministers. You are asked to use the same doors by which you entered the worship space. A reminder, the Sunday senior-friendly 8 a.m. Mass will be in the barn, Seton Hall, with the upper level accessible too, preferably for younger or able-bodied parishioners who can easily climb the steps. The normal 4 to 4:45 Saturday confession time is now restored, but the location is temporarily moved from the reconciliation area to the Blessed Sacrament Chapel to my right to secure safe distancing. The wait line is clearly marked with safe distancing lines on the floor. If you prefer, you may wait in your pew until confession is available. All daily masses will take place in the main church until further notice to allow for safe distancing of all participants. A particular section of our church, the church pews, will be designated each day for daily Mass. And the reason for this would be the sanitizing needs that have to take place after Mass. Entrance and exit for daily Mass will be the choir side direct entrance to the church that is to my left. And I would suggest daily Mass participants park in the side lot to allow easy entry and departure, again directly into the body of the worship space. Patience, respect for others, and all our combined efforts are essential and most appreciated by your pastor at this time. I want to thank all of you who have worked so hard to bring about this time of reopening for us at St. Francis de Sales Parish. Great lengths have been demonstrated not just by your pastor, but by the staff and so many others in lessening the perceived intimidation with such rules and regulations that are in place, yes, for our benefit and our safety. All parishioners and guests are kindly asked to collaborate with the guidelines and directives in these strange times, and all persons will be treated with great respect and dignity here at St. Francis de Sales Parish. Yes, it will be clunky for all of us, but the gift of the Eucharist and our full and active participation, even in the perceived rigidity of the day, far outweighs the imposed awkwardness and apprehension for the time being. Again, I welcome you back, and I share your joy in going up to the house of the Lord once again with praise and rejoicing in our hearts. May God bless us all, keep us safe and mindful of our responsibility and care in doing all that we can to keep ourselves and others safe and healthy while worshiping together on this holy hill. Thank you for your kind attention.